Planning a video, pre-production, video tutorials with Little Music Bear, episode 2. So let's go to full screen. Okay, outlining objectives. Now, whenever you make a video, there's always a particular aim that you need to focus on because you have to reach out to your target audience and convince them to do something, which is why we are using this AMA method to discover the objective and to increase the engagement rate so that we can achieve the aim that we want to convince our target audience. So, firstly, audience, which is the people that your video will reach us out to. You need to identify the needs of your audience first, which is the hypothesis. You make an intelligent guess on what appeals to a particular group of audience. Then it will be easier to identify what kind of content you should use and in which method should you film the video to make sure that the engagement rate is at its highest. Now, for example, if you're reaching out to the elderly, you want to have bigger font size for those who have difficulties looking at fine print, or for the children, you may want to present it in the animated form using simpler language so that they can understand. And next, message, what the video is trying to convey. Often or not, some advertisements, they are actually very impressive, but somehow the audience doesn't realize that the advertisement is being used to convince them to subscribe to something. So they're only enjoying the video but not understanding what it is about. So it won't convey your original message. And finally, the action. Of course, it has to be visible, not the audience feeling this way, because if the audience is feeling something, they're not going to do anything. So you have to make them do something, which is what you want to achieve in the video. So definitely we'll give you more examples later on. So next up. Okay, there's these two videos. It's part 1 and part 2. It is released by the Tourism Board of New Zealand, which talks about New Zealand being left out of the world map, and it is promoting tourism in New Zealand and also putting it back at its proper position on the map. So you can attach the links to these videos in the description below. You may read it and watch it during your free time. And try to identify your audience hypothesis, message, and action. Now, some videos always, or in fact, most videos have some form of bias purpose to appeal to the audience. And we should try to avoid making it too biased, otherwise, it will be unreliable and may mislead the audience because there'll always be a proportion of the audience that are very observant and will look out for certain clues if the content in the video doesn't fit their appeal. And as you can see in these two pictures, they are actually of the same city, which is Nairobi in Kenya. One shows the central business district, while the other shows the slums. But given that they are in the same city, these two contrasting images would show the rural-urban divide. So Probably the picture on the right is used to encourage tourism, while the picture on the left highlights the poverty in the area and would encourage people to donate or contribute to humanitarian efforts. Therefore, these videos will only show either the good or the bad side. So, as far as possible, even though you have a purpose, try to make the video slightly equal while still retaining the purpose. Now, plot holes. Quite a lot of time when we are filming with a lower budget, we'll tend to use one place for many different plots. Now, before doing that, you should research on your environment to make it as close as possible so that nobody will identify any kind of issues or incorrect information in the video. Now, like for example, like I've given the slides, if you put Swedish signs in Finland or Norway, likewise, people from these countries or those learning these languages may be able to identify that there's something wrong with the research done in the video, and this will also affect its credibility. And likewise, historical facts of those time travel videos or historical reenactments of shows, some observers, historians, and those who have lived for the period where this video is set in may notice that there's something wrong with it, like historical facts being mixed up or inaccuracies that will also lead to them having a slightly negative perception of the video. It's like you do something and you don't do proper research, or you don't know the facts and you're trying to convince people before you even know it. So try to do proper research, get the things as close as possible. Like I've seen before a few shows where they're trying to portray life in 19th century, however, a skyscraper just appeared in the background because they forgot to cut it out. So it's best to rewatch the video one more time to ensure that there is nothing that is supposed to be out of the original plot itself. So the video will be more credible. Background blurring. Okay, this is not much of the purpose part, but we also want to make sure the audience is focused on something that we want them to focus on, which typically is the subject. So if you want the audience to focus on the person, it is better to blur out the background so that the audience will not focus to the backgrounds as much so that you can convey your message. And whatever that is not important or pleasing. So therefore some travel videos also tend to blur out the background if there's something not so pleasing in the background that will affect the appeal. For example, overflowing trash cans or litter on the floor and so on and so forth. Also, blurring on the background may also help to avoid personal or sensitive content like identification numbers, vehicle plate numbers, and sometimes also faces of people which you do not have their permission to film. If they accidentally get into the video, it's best to blur out the background if they're too obvious to avoid them turning into the subject without permission. And sometimes some people may get offended if some of their sensitive content get accidentally shown in the background of a video. And next. Now, for this, you can see that the different perspectives in the frame on top of the blue line and below the blue line. Now this just basically shows different eras, but apparently they are taken in the same time at the date of the photo, which is 2019. Now from the top you can see modern buildings, where from the bottom side you just see old houses as well as an old car left abandoned in the middle of the sidewalk. So to ensure that one, the set that you're using caters to your audience, you can just cut out the part and only focus on a single particular part without making the part that you do not want to show too obvious. Likewise, for this video, inside the frame and outside the frame would show different focus. Most of the time people will notice those things that are inside the frame, since if I use the rule of thirds, this subject will fall in the intersection point. However, we can see that there's still a few people which will focus on the shoes that's not the main subject. But apparently, knowing that this shop actually sells shoes and clothes may intrigue the audience or the attention of some of the audience. So it's also important to note that. And in conclusion, the aim of making a good video is to spread or convince the audience to do something, and at the same time give a balanced view, preventing noticeable flaws and targeting the needs of the audience. And most importantly, the audience should enjoy this video and look forward to watching more of the videos of a similar type to in order to create long-term engagement and success in the videos. And that's the end of this episode. I hope you have learned something new, and once again, thanks for watching videography tutorials with Little Music Bear, and we'll see you in the next episode.